Poem for the winter solstice. Let there be lightness to dispel all darkness, all heaviness. Let there be waxing toward all things lightening, all things humanizing. Let the world turn back to itself anew. The stopping sun return back aglow. Hope burn hot and bright in eager hearts. Let us, as nature's creations, remember its sacredness and bring to life and each other the great sparks of soul that shoot and shimmer within our earthliness. Good evening, friends and newcomers far and wide. Welcome back to another floating poetry broadcast, the third in this weekly series, coming to you live by the sea, the wild and gentle sea, by moon and firelight, supermoon, flower moon, from Weekapaug, Rhode Island. This is your poet and poetorialist, Colin, Goedecke. Tonight, sharing poems with you of possibility, with each and all of you, for our unusually challenging times. A poem from Arlington, Virginia, Crystal City. Remember to breathe. Inhale now. Exhale then. Inhale possibility. Exhale impossibility. Inhale tenderness. Exhale loneliness. Inhale freedom. Exhale boredom. Inhale you, all of you. Keep breathing. Last week's broadcast, I shared a few quotes, and since we're doing this by moon and firelight, there's a book that I was quite taken with that you might find interesting called Hearth. And here we are at the hearth, and the hearth of poetry. It's a global conversation on community, identity, and place. And the introduction struck me, and I used this for a one-man show down in Hopewell, down near Princeton, a year ago, almost a year. And I thought this was apropos tonight. It seems we humans, like whales and monarch butterflies, are programmed to return to or to seek places of refuge, nurture, and deep connection. But unlike butterflies and whales, we also keep asking questions about who we are, why we are here, where we came from, and where we are headed. All around the world, individuals, families, friends, and neighbors gather around a campfire or a computer, a kitchen table or an auditorium stage to share ideas and warmth and often food. This book, we hope, may become one such gathering place where questions are asked that have no answers, but where the talk goes on, connecting us in peace and trust, keeping the fire alive. I hope our evenings together serve that purpose too. And one more quote before we have a few more poems tonight together by, I guess we'd call him my teacher, a fellow from the early 1900s, a portrait painter, an incredible teacher, a incredible man, Robert Henri, Henri, and his book was The Art Spirit, but that was a collection of talks that he gave to his students. And even though he's talking about artists, I think we're all creators in some way in our lives, whether we're official artists or not. And I thought this might resonate with us on the theme of possibility. He said, "You can do anything you want to do. What is rare is this actual wanting to do a specific thing, wanting it so much that you are practically blind to all other things, that nothing else will satisfy you. When you, body and soul, wish to make a certain expression and cannot be distracted from this one desire, then you will be able to make a great use of whatever technical knowledge you have. You will have clairvoyance. You will see the uses of the technique you already have, and you will invent more. I know I have said a lot when I say you can do anything you want to do, but I mean it. There is reason for you to give this statement some of your best thought. You may find that this is just what is the matter with most of the people in the world, that few are really wanting what they think they want, and that most people go through their lives without ever doing one whole thing they really want to do. An artist has got to get acquainted with himself just as much as he can. It is no easy job, for it is not a present-day habit of humanity. This is what I call self-development, self-education. No matter how fine a school you are in, you have to educate yourself. There is nothing more entertaining than to have a frank talk with yourself. Few do it, frankly. Educating yourself is getting acquainted with yourself. Find out what you really like if you can. Find out what is really important to you. Then sing your song. You will have something to sing about, and your whole heart will be in the singing. Apropos of hearths, this was written back in July of 2016 on a lovely back street in East Hampton, New York, called The Circle, where I lived for a time. Barefoot cottage by the sea. And it's called Open Your Hearth. Open your hearth, your heart, your earth, your ear of being to everything deeply living, to everything deeply calling. What if it's a mystery play? This life, and we must, like Holmes and Hercule, carefully, cleverly follow its clues, however false at first, or faint, or far-fetched. Deduce the meaning hiding inside it all. Uncover the heart of our story, at least enough of the mystery to reveal the particular part we're each here, each meant, cast into the world to play. You are the hero of your story, the one to brave the way, to risk and pave your way, the one to rise from your depths to your heights, dimensions far greater than you realize, ever thought or were told you had, to summon the courage to live or ease or save your only life, for only you can. Yes, you are the hero, that heroic being already waiting in the wings. I chose this next poem. It was for a very, very dear friend, soul brother, on his 70th birthday. And it's a Greek word, omikron. And I begin it here with a quote from his ancestor, who was one of the most famous poets in Greece, on this particular island where I wrote this and happened to be staying at the time. And the poet of that day, ancient times, was Simonides of Chios, the island of Kea in the Cyclades, which is where this was written, inspired by. And the quote from him at the time Being a man, you cannot tell what might befall when tomorrow comes, nor yet how long one who appears blessed will remain that way. So soon our fortunes change, even the long-winged fly turns around less suddenly. And then my poem. We may not know how or when or if our fortunes will change, rise or fade, from the wholeness of our heart to the fullness of our purse, from the vigor of this body and mind to the simple joys of living and loving on this earth. Yet, however unknowing, each day from our first to our next, we sow new seeds of self in the most fertile soil we can find. Give them sun and water, waking and dream time to sprout, grow, bear fruit, bear flowers, become orchards, become gardens, each sowing an act of creativity, each planting an affirmation of our possibilities. Another poem for a beloved friend and spirit. This was the grandfather of a former daughter-in-law of mine, and he was one of the most beautiful men I had ever known and was close to. And his name, he's not alive now, alas, but I'm calling him up tonight. His name was Earl Burgett from out on the Olympic Peninsula, Port Townsend, Washington. And I wrote this as an ode for him on his 83rd birthday back in 2007. And his name was Earl Burgett, and the title is Earl's Eyes. Blue as blue hydrangeas, they've seen the world and war and peace, mountains and the men who moved them, children and grandchildren come and childhood go, thousands of moons full and waxing, suns rising, faces of all kinds and cultures smiling. They've opened widely in love and closed shyly in kisses, cried for a lifetime of joys and sorrows, of sentiments and great moments of exuberance. And the more they see and let and light inside, the more we see through those luminous, endless blue eyes of you. You know, in honor of this beautiful spring, no matter what's happening in our world and lives, the spring is happening. And I felt we should honor that because spring is a season and feeling of so much possibility, so much newness and renewal. And if we can drink more of that in as it happens around us, could be good. So this poem was written back in April of 1998 in New York. That man of Arden, and we know Arden was that mythical forest, Shakespearean time. That man of Arden. His hat was a large robin's nest. The buttons on his swallow-tailed coat were dandelions. The soles of his shoes gathered green moss, and in his petal-soft hand he held a blooming trumpet vine with sweet-colored notes to herald his arrivals and signal his departures in the Ardens and Arcadias of other worlds and faraway forgotten times. That man of Arden, taking us out west to New Mexico, to Santa Fe, smoke signals. Smoke signals from the southwest rise through the morning pines and yellowing aspens, sending blue clouds and signs of life into the high desert sky. Poem from Sag Harbor, New York, June of 2016. Shooting Star. I awake widely in the silent hours, while the rest of the house, close to bay and sea, is dreaming. Stand, Turn my face to the open window and night sky spread over the silhouettes of treetops, blue on black. Look at the constellations floating round their moorings, and wish for a shooting star to loose, which suddenly lights out, streaking wondrously, zinc whitely through the dark, through a newly hopeful place in the center of my heart. Going much farther north to Alaska, this poem is called In a Drop. And we have some friends maybe listening from Alaska tonight, some lovely people. Monica and Aaron. In a drop of salt water, you can see an ocean bluing. Of rain, you can hear blossoms opening. Of wine, you can taste a landscape sunning. Of quicksilver, you can scent weather coming. Of ink, you can touch a poet dreaming. Of a tear, you can feel your being flowing. The next poem. The heart is a remarkable thing. It can become sick over many things, over loss of faith or fortune, death of a loved one, dreams deferred, disappointments or disbeliefs, seeing suffering. Then somehow, often miraculously, heal, learn to reopen, sing, feel joy again. The next poem. When was the last time you were deeply seen? You were deeply heard. You were deeply held. You were deeply kissed. Well then. When I think about our possibilities, I think about joy, because one of my daily mantras, let us say, like the old bank robber Willie Sutton from the 20s, they asked him why he robbed. No, he wasn't a safecracker. He wasn't a bank robber, a safecracker. He liked to work in banks because they were nice, quiet places. But they said, well, why do you do it? And he said, I go where the money is, and I go there often, which is very charming. And I just substituted, I go where the joy is, and I go there often. And I know for me, that's a good choice. So this poem is called Joyriding. Not the reckless kind or involving anything high speed or stolen. Rather, the ride your heart takes you on when you fly through the clouds or down the roads of new love or newly discovered passions, inspirations, rides that, however long or short, are fully and wildly joyful, take you to places of great aliveness, require no permits or permissions, no brakes or blinkers, only your willingness to go along, only your allowing of all that joy to rush through and around you. Be a free and full-on joyrider. A poem from New York City back in November of 2006 sort of struck me as something we might want to include tonight, since anybody in New York and other places, but in New York for sure, tricky times. And this is titled, You Carry Your Life in a Bag of Skin and Bones, a portmanteau of matter-of-factness, with soft handles and room to hold a lifetime of meals and memories, ideas and injuries, a carrying case you never have to unpack, but sometimes need to fish inside. That weathers with age. That has everything you really need, all the essentials, no matter where you go or for however long. This is a poem from Kitchel Pond from the Weekapaug Brook Reservation in New Jersey, where I spent some beautiful, tranquil time after my urban life. I took a pause and a transition, I guess we could say. And I used to sit on that bench and have so many good musings, especially on the great blue heron, but just on the pond itself. And this poem came to me one time I was sitting there. As most good poems came out of the blue. And the title of it, this one, is If You Had to Close the Book. If you had to close the book of your life, prepare for an otherworldly fuga mundi, ready or not, here you go, forevermore. What would the last page, the end note, grace note be? The luminous face or close embrace of a great love? A simple, blissful childhood reverie? The first crisp taste of autumn at the green end of summer? And what table of its contents would you expose, to mark out the main chapters, the major chords, depth and breadth between birth and death, of your living and loving, your seeking and discovering, if you knew you had to close the book? Well, we have just two more, and then a bit of a farewell tonight to you. Till next time, next week. Next Wednesday is the plan. But in the meantime, the next to last piece for us tonight, the poem of possibility, is Being of Light. Be a man, a woman, a child of light, a bearer of light, a kindler and keeper of light that beacons in all directions, sweeps over dark seas, stony shores, the faces of vessels, of sailors, of known and unknown voyagers. Being of light. By the way, just so you know, you wouldn't know that because you can't see me at the moment, but I am reading all of this by candlelight. We've got firelight down there and where you are, and candlelight on the other end of the table where I am, and moonlight over everybody's head tonight. It's quite beautiful. So our last poem of this evening, of this broadcast, is Something Greater. You are not a branching tree or rushing river, a green valley or dusk blue mountainside. You are a landscape. You are not a deep current, breaking wave, or high rising tide. You are an ocean. You're not a swirl of musical notes, melodies, or major chords. You are a symphony. You're not a ply of colored threads and intriguing weaves. You are a tapestry. You are not a soul star shining or lone planet spinning through an infinity of space. You are a constellation. Thank you for listening. You find replays of each broadcast on YouTube to share or watch again. I do hope you'll lean in next time. Until then, good days ahead and good spirits.